Hey guys, hanging out with William Vanderbloemen. See, I got the name right.
You
I
got the name
boom,
right. You got
Vanderbloemen.
the
Didn't
name right.
even hesitate.
It's just like flowers. They're blooming.
There you go, man. Great to see you again.
You
Thanks
too,
for
Carl.
thanks for hanging out. So, you're doing a talk tonight. Give us kind of the high points of your
Yeah.
talk.
Well, have you ever run into somebody, I think probably everybody has, and like within 5 minutes, you're like, this one's a winner.
Well, I mean, come on.
Every morning in the mirror, right? No, oh, it's seriously, you know that feeling though, right?
Yeah,
Oh, there's something different. For a long time, I've wondered, is it natural born leadership or is it something that can be learned?
yeah. Can you teach it?
We did a lot of research, and the short version is we found the path to learning how to become that.
Okay.
And I think in the future, it's going to be like the difference between, shooting on an old Polaroid versus a 4K.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the difference of you standing out or not. And I mean, my goodness, it even gets down to visuals. How do you look? You don't have to look great on camera, but are you putting your best look forward? I was listening the other day, Carl, I'm old. And so I was listening to some of our Gen Zs at the office talk about their podcasts. And so I watched that podcast. Oh, I watched that podcast. I watched that. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, you thought
Listen to
podcast with
podcasts,
audio.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, it's all visual.
Right.
Church visuals.
Yep.
I love what you're doing because that helps people tie back to a visual that looks good.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what happened with podcasts is I mean, when it was a years ago when you said podcast, it was audio only. But I got asked a lot, should I do audio and video? It's video every single time. Here's the reason. You can pull the audio off the video and that can become its own audio track on a Spotify or something like that. But you now have both and you can put the video on YouTube, which is the second largest search engine in the world.
I'm surprised it's still second.
I know, and hasn't taken over Google yet, right?
That's right.
Yep. Okay, so how is that taught? How is it taught to become
Yeah, well,
a
what
rock
we
star?
did, I'm not a magician, but I am a researcher. And so we took a look at, we said, could we figure out if people like that set off that, oh my gosh, they're different. Could we find a way to see if they have anything in common?
Yeah.
So we took our very best candidates we've ever interviewed. We've been around quite a long time now, done lots and lots we help churches find their pastor and schools, their headmaster, and Chick-fil-A, their people, and that Team Jesus, find leaders, right? So over the years, we said, how many of those, we call them unicorns. They just immediately make an impression. Unicorn, something is very rare to find, but when you see it, you know what it is, right? We have 30,000 of them. So we did a massive study of all 30,000. So what do these people have in common? And the answer, first of all, was yes, they have things in common. And the list of things they had in common was absolutely opposite to what I thought it'd be. I was dead wrong.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
What surprised you?
Well, I thought they'd, how do I say this where my Gen Zs in the office will know that I thought they'd all be in finance, 6'5", blonde hair, trust fund,
Right.
quarterback of the team, like Mr. Popular, head cheerleader, some just, oh man, or they went to a great school or they came from a family with money or what.
Yep.
It was none of that. It
Really?
boiled down to 12 habits that these unicorns practice. And they really boiled down to one commandment. They were almost all centered around, how am I treating you right now? Human to human.
Interesting.
Like treating you in a way where you go, golly, that was different. And what we found is the unicorns, whether they're a janitor or a CEO, whether they have a low IQ or a high IQ, whether they make no money or a whole lot of money, any sector, doesn't matter, skin color, how you brought up, where you brought up, you practice these 12 habits, you will be one of those people that's like, oh my gosh, I just met the most amazing person. And Carl, what would happen if churches could train entire staffs so that when a visitor finally came and they met 12, 24 volunteers or staff people, they said, everyone I met there was like, wow, they're special.
Is it kindness?
It's more targeted than that. I'm in the talk, I'm only going to have time to go over 3 or 4 of them. The 12 habits, I don't write books, I research, and sometimes that leads to a book. And the book is called Be the Unicorn, 12 data-driven habits that separate the best leaders from the rest. And one of those habits is, I'll tell you what I'm not talking about, okay?
Okay.
Authenticity. Are you authentic or not? And that's a hot buzzword. But what does that mean? How do you practice authenticity? Well,
And how do I know if you're being authentic or not?
right. So part of the key to authenticity, obviously don't make too much of yourself, but don't think too lowly of yourself. But here's a little hack that will transfer authenticity from me to you. If I watch you, like if I look at people, the number one problem with Gen Z interviews right now is they don't make eye contact.
Sorry, what we said?
Exactly. I FaceTime my kids, they're in college. I know what the bottom of their nostrils look like because they walk around FaceTiming.
Right.
It,
Yeah, it's true.
eye contact with the unicorns is a given, but it's even better than just I'm looking at you. It's I'm looking at you in the very right spot. Well, what do you mean, William? Well, look me in the eye. Well, most people look back and forth eyes. Do I pick the bridge of the nose? Where do I look right over the forehead? What? No, 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 no. Here's a biological fact, okay? 90% of all humans are right eye dominant. We only look out of one eye. The other eye
I
is
look
for
at the
depth.
right eye.
Yeah, the other eye is for depth perception. You think about like if you ever had a rifle or anything, it's almost always scoped for the right eye, right? Look someone dead in their right eye. And if you interview people who've had others do that, you know what they say? Oh man, Carl made me feel like I was the only person in the room. He's so authentic.
Deep.
He's so authentic. And it's authenticity comes through looking in the eye. And also, I don't know if you've seen the Simon Sinek talk where it's like, somebody give me a phone, give me a phone.
Right.
Do you think I'm paying attention to you now?
Right. Even if you're holding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks about like if you're at dinner and even if you put your phone on the table,
That's bad.
it's bad.
Yeah.
Like I realized like, oh, you must have something better to do, or you're waiting to pick it up, or your attention is split.
Or I'm an impediment to what you're really trying to get done.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's bridge that with visual media. How does some of your research match up with how your visuals matter?
Yeah. Well, one of the 12 habits is the prepared. A lot of people just show up and wing it. A lot of people think they can, it's actually a myth that we can multitask. We can't. We can't even eat. I don't know if you're old enough that your mom's
Or not productive.
Right.
Right.
Well, you're never multitasking. You're always single tasking. Right. I used to get so mad at my mother who'd say, turn off the music while you're studying. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that, right? What's music? It was in a cassette player.
Studying.
But that too. Yeah. So we won't go there, but like it was only later when I was researching for a sermon, when I was preaching regularly years and years ago, that we had a lot of doctors in our church. So we could always do medical research, which was super cool. And we were talking about giving an attentive ear. And this audiologist was telling me, did you know the human auditory nerve can only process one sound at a time? So when you're hearing a symphony and you're hearing the bass and the, or whatever it is you're listening to that's got multiple pieces, you're not listening to the multiple pieces at once. Your brain is very quickly jumping from this sound to this sound to this sound to this sound, and it's one thing at a time. If you want to stand out as a church or as a leader, you'll be prepared. That doesn't mean you have to get, look like a Ken doll or a Barbie doll to be on visuals. Frankly, people don't care what body type you have anymore like they used to. That's kind of out. And what's in is people being prepared. Oh, he showed up for me. He was ready to talk about what I wanted to talk about. He knew how to say Vanderbloemen. I mean, that's prepared. If you come up prepared for a video, then you're going to be like way better than most people who just start talking into the camera, or even worse, if you're right, is this on? Should we start now? Like,
right.
If you're serious about being prepared, you're going to find someone to make the best version of you come out in the camera. And I think that's where you guys could help a lot of people.
Do you find that because of that research, like let's say with a graphic or with a church announcement on stage, something like that, that it's better to condense the content? Like I think that there is a myth that if you throw everything on the screen, like I'm thinking of a pastor that has 17 lines of their sermon point on one slide, when if you condense that down to 2 words, it's going to be more visually appealing. I can take it in better. Does that resonate? Is that
You
true?
remember the old FedEx commercial where the guys talk super fast?
Yeah. The Micro Machines guy.
Or anything he said?
No.
No.
I just remember he talked fast.
Do you remember Nike ads? What do they say?
Just do it.
There's your answer.
Right.
Jesus' Sermon on the Mount's really short if you read it out loud.
Right.
Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, I think it's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
You can read the entire book of James
Yeah.
in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Less is more. I had a great preaching professor that said to me a long time ago when I was at Princeton, he said, the sign of a good sermon is a full trash can. You've thrown away a whole lot and kept the most distilled parts of things.
Mm.
And I think that's super important in announcements and that sort of. I mean, I've been a pastor. You get pulled in 50 directions from every little group that's very convinced their thing's the most important thing.
Correct. Correct.
No. Less is more. Just do it.
Yep. All right. Any more on visual media, on how it relates or crosses over with some of your research?
It's the future. It's the future. You know, it's funny. I'm going to make some people mad. Is that okay?
Bring it on, buddy.
So we started the same month that Twitter launched.
Okay.
Just by happenstance, right? And then LinkedIn was about to die. It was about to go away. I mean, it's just completely irrelevant. I don't know if you remember, it almost went bankrupt, and then Microsoft bought it and revived it. And then Instagram came out. So when we started, we used to joke and say, if they're a boring Presbyterian like me, you find them on LinkedIn. This was before Facebook was super old, and we'd say, if they're like a boomer or whatever, go to Facebook. If they're charismatic, go to Instagram because they love the good-looking images. I'm making generalizations that are getting me in trouble, but you could profile where things were, and video was last to come. And maybe that's because of internet speeds, maybe it's the processors were slower or whatever. But now everything is video. Name for me a major company that has a word in its logo.
Right.
Nowhere. Starbucks is not Starbucks. It's just the woman that's on the front of the Moby Dick boat.
Right.
McDonald's is just the golden arches. I guess UPS still has UPS, but everything is visual. And if you aren't putting your best foot forward visually, you're hurting your own chances. And you say, oh, it's not all visual. It's not all visual. Hey, listen, let me give you one line to just think about. The Word became flesh, and we beheld his glory like never before. It was visual. When God really wants to make something happen, he gets face to face. And I think pastors could learn a lot from that. And if you aren't putting your best foot forward with your visuals, well, then you're not putting your best foot forward for Jesus.
Do your visuals matter when it comes to finding the right leader?
Yes and no. Yes. And what matters when finding the right leader is finding a tissue match for our client.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's like you do a search. It's like an organ transplant, right? If it's a head pastor, let's say it's a heart transplant, right? And I talked to some transplant docs because I had all these docs in my neighborhood. What makes the best, and the rest, the rest? Oh, that's easy. Finding donors is hard, but it's not the end of the world. The tissue match is what really matters. And the tissue match, if you put a healthy heart into a healthy body and they don't match, it's just a bad ending for everyone. So what we're doing is we're studying the client, like what is really important to them. For some of them, visual is more important than another, but I don't think anyone can escape the need for visuals. Having said that, if they actually let me into heaven, which is still, my mother's still concerned, right? So,
well, I think other people are once you dashed all the denominations.
Lots of people. I'm going to get all kind of hate tweets and okay. Anyway, if I get to heaven after worship and, all the lines form to meet all the famous Moses and Elijah and I'm going to find Jesse because I can relate. We have lined up great candidates before and they've said, no, do you have another one? And it's a shepherd boy out in the field. And God does look beyond the outward appearance.
Yes.
But there's no reason that that's an excuse to put out a bad outward appearance on purpose.
Right. It's a tool. The visual is a tool. All right. As we close, tell people how they can find your book. Is it released yet? How can they find it and get it?
Yeah, it's out. And in fact, next week, we're releasing a workbook for it because we had all these executive pastors and HR directors and team leaders buy them for their whole team, new workbook. But the easiest thing to do is go to theunicornbook.com. Or if you want to have fun, my last name's you want to know how messed up my last name is? Only reason we named the firm after me, because the last name is so hard to spell that if you can misspell it into Google 100 different ways,
I'll come to
just try Vanderbloemen any way you want. And you'll get there. You'll also find on our site, you'll see the book and all that. But more importantly, there are about 4,000 free resources for you about how you can build and run and keep a great team.
Yeah. William, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it, Carl.
This has been a podcast presentation of Church Visuals, executive produced by Carl Barnhill,
Edited by Mario Franco. Title and show graphics by Angie Lomas. For more resources to help you visually communicate the gospel, visit churchvisuals.com.